Welcome to Modern Handgunners, everybody. I'm Bob Main from the Handgun World Podcast, and joining me,
I'm Ben Branham with the Modern Self-Protection Podcast, and we are the Modern Handgunners. We are here to talk about open carry today. The good, the bad, the ugly, and the questions that we got.
and the reason we're talking about that, I put a post on Facebook a few days ago. I saw an open carrier. It was the first time I had seen somebody open carrying probably in about 2 years, maybe shortly after the open carry was allowed here in Texas. That was the last time. So my wife and I, we went to a restaurant for curbside food pickup. And as we're waiting for them to bring out our food, a guy walks out of the restaurant because he picked up his food. And he had on this big FDE Glock in a thigh rig holster. It looked like it was probably a Glock 17 or 22, and they had 2 spare magazines on his belt on his left side. And I thought, wow, I haven't seen that in a long time. It's legal here in Texas, but not many do it.
No, it was a big fad for a while. I see it more often. It's been more than 2 years since I've seen one. No, hasn't been that long. It seems like it's been 2 years because I'm stuck at home with COVID crazy. But I don't know. Used to see somebody out open and carrying, once a month or so, once every
Really?
2 or 3 weeks. Yeah, and it just wasn't a big deal for me. And I would always do a double take. Are they a cop or not? And they just didn't really bother me. It's weird to see the first couple times, right? The first time you're like, what the heck?
Well,
And
that's what I thought. That's what I thought when I saw this guy. I thought, well, maybe he's a cop. And then I realized, no. I can tell if someone is police officer or not. And most of the cops are not carrying in a thigh rig, first of all. Most of them are not carrying flat dark earth Glocks either. And then when I got back into my truck, I kind of thought, his face is familiar. He might be somebody that you and I have gone to a competition match and shot with there.
The gun world's a small world. Could have ran into him anywhere, gun show or gun shop or match or class or any of that stuff. But
who knows?
Hey, so we thought we'd talk about the questions that other people have. You got a specific question, and the good, the bad, and ugly of the open carry. What is it, and does it really matter, and is it really happening? We got all these things, right?
Yeah, let's talk about my specific question. So a listener or a viewer named Jeff, he sent me an email just this morning, and he said, hey, Bob, he said, I've heard it, people say 1,000 times that the open carrier might be the first guy to get shot if something starts going down somewhere. He said, do you believe that to be true? And do you have any evidence of that, or do you have any cases? And I thought about it, and I responded to him. I said, Jeff, you got a good point. I've never seen any evidence of that. It's everybody says it, but I'm not so sure if it really is true or not. What do you think?
I think this is the great part about the internet today, that we all can learn this stuff and we don't have to actually just pontificate or try to figure it out. Yes, that it was the prevailing knowledge for the last 10 years. If you're open carrying, you're going to be the first one that's shot. The restaurant gets held up and somebody's just going to shoot you. And it kind of comes from law enforcement and security guards. We know that it has happened to law enforcement, and it has happened to especially security guards. I even know of a first-hand account where the bank was a takeover robbery, and the manager was trying to get the security guard that runs their complex attention, and it was an armed security guard, and the guard didn't get it and walked in the bank and got shot in the back of the head. Oops. So yeah, that was horrible, and that was years and years ago. But so we know it does happen when it comes to security and law enforcement. But I have yet to find a case where it's happened to an open carrier. So we keep looking for that.
A civilian open carrier, you mean?
Yeah, and then it's civilian cops, but somebody that's not in law enforcement or the military that's open carrying a firearm, or a security guard, that somebody's just going about their business open carrying. Yeah, I haven't heard of one yet. Doesn't mean it won't happen. Doesn't mean it hasn't happened. It means that it's not happening as prolifically. That's not a good word. It's not happening as much as
often, yeah.
As everybody said it would, right? Because it would happen. They said it would happen all the time. If you're there and something happens, you're going to be shot first, and then they'll go about their business. Well, it just hasn't happened yet. So on that one, the jury's still out on that one. We'll have to see with a couple more open carriers getting involved. Like you just have to have what's the odds of somebody that's open carrying being there when a restaurant or a bank or 7-Eleven or something starts to get robbed? So we just don't see a lot of that happening right now. So I'm not sure if, on the other hand, the complete opposite of that is that people say that open carrying will deter crime. And so don't know, but when
Some
open
do.
carry first started, there was a really big case about a restaurant. A couple guys open carrying just as a group in there, and a bunch of bad guys walked in and went, "Oops, guns," and walked out. And well, these weren't very good bad guys because they sucked because they get caught by the cops and actually kind of all got ferreted out what happened and why they didn't do it. So not the genius bad guys. If you start to commit a crime and then you stop and you don't commit the crime and you still get caught for the crime, not the most genius bad guy. So
No, it's not. You're not the most genius bad guy. Well, I want to say, and you might differ, Ben, but I want to say, first of all, I don't really advocate open carry. It is legal in many states, not every state, but it's legal. Here in Texas, it's legal. I'm not really going to suggest that anybody do it. I'm not going to do it. And there's other reasons why I don't want to do it. I just don't feel like I need to advertise that I'm carrying a firearm. But if you want to do that, if you want to open carry, then it's perfectly legal and within your right in many states. What do you think?
if you want to do it, you should totally do it. We'll go. Our second half of this video is going to be some caveats on some things that you should probably do. But actually, I like to open carry in big groups. I worked for the gun shop for a long time. Most of us open carried there. It wasn't a big deal. Went to gun shows and stuff. I like to open carry, do that. In big groups, I don't mind it because I'm not the only one. But as just me, when I go about my daily life, I don't open carry. And we have some friends in the firearms industry that do open carry every day as a matter
Yes,
of
we do.
advocacy. I can say big words today, I promise. As a matter of advocacy to show that the Second Amendment is there. And we don't harp on him for it. And we don't, he does the couple caveats that we say that you should do when you open carry. And, he talks to everybody about it. He's out there actually talking to people about the Second Amendment and open carrying and right to carry and all that stuff. So that's kind of cool. But I still don't do it. I like the tactical advantage of being able to have my tactical patience or wait your turn, as John Correa says, and not people not knowing that I'm carrying. The other one is
Me too.
it's my absolute nightmare that I'm carrying with some people that know I'm carrying or I'm open carrying or whatever. Something happens and I decide I'm going to wait a minute to see what happens. And somebody's yelling, Ben, shoot him. You got a gun, shoot him. And pointing at me and have the bad guy, look at me. And now it's, I've
And I
run
guess
out of
that
options.
could be a disadvantage of open carry right there.
That's what I'm kind of more afraid of on the open carry. And that's, again, we're just kind of pontificating here of what could happen from
Right,
our
we don't have
experience.
any evidence
We're
of
guessing.
this.
It's a complete guess. So, that's my worst nightmare of the open carry thing. And that's one of the big reasons I don't do it. When it first happened here in Texas and I worked at the gun shop, I tested it out a bunch. I'd go get lunch. I went places after because I was working at the gun shop when the law passed. And I was like, well, let's see what happens. Every time I went someplace with the gun shop, I would throw on a vest. I had a shoot me first vest and I'd throw that on and hide my gun. And then I'd go get lunch for the crew or on my way to work and on my way home and stuff. And after that, I was like, let's see what happens. The vest was still in the car with me, but I wanted to see what happened when I open carried. So I went to lunch and open carried a couple times, and it wasn't a big deal. I saw some people go with their eyes, and they see the gun, and then they relax. But it really wasn't that big a deal.
Now, you talked about the shoot me first vest, and there's another myth that not really a lot of people can prove that one either. But I don't want to get too far off subject. Here's what I'll say about open carry. Here in Texas, when did they pass that? 2016 or 2017? Whatever, doesn't matter. What happened shortly after, a lot of people don't like it. They don't like open carry, especially business owners. Business owners don't want people walking in their business with guns exposed. So all of a sudden, 30-07 signs went up anywhere. For people that are not from Texas, the 30-07 sign is the specific sign here that prohibits open carry. They went out everywhere. As a matter of fact, it was causing some businesses to put both the 30-07 and the 30-06, prohibiting both open carry and concealed carry. Did you notice that?
Yeah, and I think that happens everywhere the law changes. That people just they never thought about it before, and now it's on the news that it's open carry is
Yes.
legal, and now they're thinking about it. So now they need to figure out something. We have to do something, right? We always have to do something. On the other hand, the 30-07 where it's just makes it illegal to open carry in your spot, I'm kind of with that. If you have a business that wants to curtail to everyone, there
Hmm.
is a lot of sheeple out there that are going to be scared out of their mind when they see a gun and they're going to freak out.
And
And
they won't want
then,
to come to your
well,
establishment.
and I even think of worse than that. We've had it happen where people have been swatted, for lack of a better term, where they call 911 on the legal owner. And then the cops have to show up. And depending on what that person said, the cops are either going to show up just to say, hey, what's going on? Or they're going to show up with 5 or 6 deep and they're all got rifles and vests on when they come into your establishment. Nobody needs that kind of
Nobody wants it.
exposures. Yeah, so that's a problem. There was the one guy, it was a Walmart, and I can't remember where. He was legally open carrying, went into the place, and somebody tackled him. Actually, he was concealed carrying. Somebody saw his gun, and the other guy tackled him, thought he was going to be a hero, and then there was a fight over the gun. Um, well, if you fight me over my gun, I'm going to kill you.
You're gonna,
So
yeah.
that's horrible, horrible. So all of these horrible things can happen when they find out. And the last one that we actually have evidence for that it's actually happening right now that most people didn't think of, and honestly, when open carry started, I didn't think this was going to be a problem, is that people are stealing their guns. Like you're
Uh-huh.
open carrying, walking around with your gun, and somebody else walks up and sticks a gun in your face and says, "Give me your gun." They're
Right.
robbing you for your gun.
For your
So,
gun.
and that,
Yeah,
and I,
that can happen.
at first it happened like once, and then it happened twice, and now it's happening almost with regularity. So I would say, for nothing else, unintended consequences. Here we go. If you open carry, you actually make yourself a target for some of these dirt bags that want a gun because you've got one. They can see it. They figure they can get it. So not maybe the best of ideas. Like I said, that one I was totally wrong about. I would have never guessed, but it's happening. So there's another reason that I don't want to open carry, especially if I have my family with me. I don't want to make myself more of a target for a bad guy that wants. And if they know I'm armed, he's got a gun. He's not just holding a knife, or he's not just sitting there, hey, give me your wallet, or I'm going to punch you in the face, kind of thing. No, he's got a gun, and he's got a gun in your face. I remember the case when this first happened. The guy was carrying a Walter P380 around without one in the chamber. And the guy came up and asked him, "Hey, that's a nice gun. What type is it?" Blah, blah, blah. And then he pulls out a gun and says, "Give me your gun." So,
Yeah. You mean he
oops.
was like a Walther PPK? Is that what it was, or something like that?
Uh, the PK 380,
Oh, the
the kind of the
PK 380.
plastic,
Yeah.
bigger version. But I just remember that story. It stuck out because it was the first one that happened. And I was like, oops. Well,
Yeah.
who would have thought?
Yeah.
Who would have thunk that, right? Yeah, bad guys
Well,
don't think like
who
we
would
do.
have they don't think like we do. That's true. And you and I learned that at TACCon a couple of years ago, um, when Dr. April, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
William April. If you ever
William
get a
April.
chance
Yeah.
to listen to him, he's scary.
Yeah.
But all he does is deal with bad guys.
Yeah, it's all he does is do that. Yeah. So getting back to the first question, I guess there's not really a lot of hardcore evidence that you're the guy going to get shot first if you're open carrying, but you seem to draw unnecessary attention to yourself that maybe you don't want to draw to yourself. And then the business owners, they get scared. As soon as the open carry is allowed, they get frightened. They start to throw up signs. They start to prohibit guns where they didn't used to prohibit guns before. Now they do it. So those are some negatives. What kind of positives do you see of open carry?
Well, like our friend Paul that advocates for it, they get to actually start conversations about guns. Hey, can you legally do that? Yeah. Everybody
Mhm.
can. It's a right. It's in the Constitution of the United States. And then you start conversations. When you go out in large groups, this is my belief. I can't fact it yet, but if you go out in large groups and you're all open carrying, if you go into a restaurant and there's 5 of you open carrying, you're going to deter crime because there is a bunch of people with guns there. I just so I think there's some good things that can come from open carry. Honestly, right now for me, the negative outweighs the good, so I don't do it typically. There's very few times that I'll do it. I mean, going to the range, I know you and I go to the range every once in a while and you'll open carry going to the range, but you're going from your
Going to the
car.
range,
Yeah,
yes.
you're going from your house to your car. Oh, and you park in the garage, and then you'll put, or I'll come pick you up and you just jump in the truck with your open carry. So you went from the house to the car, and then you went from the car to the range and back again. So yeah,
Right.
not that big a deal. Nobody ever sees it, but that's kind of cool that the law is that way. So you don't have to, it's legal, so you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to be a pain in the butt to make sure you cover up and stuff, and we don't have to worry about violating the law because somebody saw it.
Yeah. Well, I'll throw in a positive. There's one positive about open carry. I'll use Texas, where we are here, as an example. So when they passed open carry and made it legal, you don't have to worry so much about your gun printing because you're not really breaking a law if your gun prints. If you're trying to conceal and your shirt happens to fly up or something like that, and people can see your gun, it's it's much less consequential than it was when we did not have open carry.
Yeah, I like that law change. When I first started carrying here in Texas, it was severe consequences. It was almost a felony to lose your license if you were made while you were carrying.
Right.
And it didn't say like the
Not
average
anymore.
person. It was like if anybody can seize you and identifies your gun, you're committing a Class C or Class A misdemeanor, which is like 1 year in prison, and you lose your license. So there was a lot of severe penalties for oops, your gun got exposed. And then
Yeah.
it lessened a little bit, and then it lessened a little bit, and now with open carry, if I bend over and my gun comes exposed, well, now I'm just open carrying. I'm no longer concealed carrying. So
Correct.
not big deal, no violation of the law. That is a really cool one that most people don't see. Yes, you're not. What's the odds of you getting messed with on that by a cop? Probably pretty low. But if you do have the one cop that's having a really bad day and then you just piss him off and he decided that he was going to take you to jail for that, it could really screw up your life. So
It could cause
I
you some inconvenience, yes.
I don't like the laws that are just, well, nobody's ever going to enforce that. What if somebody does somewhere and it just screws over somebody's life? So any of those laws that are just on the books, like that one should go. We had one here in San Antonio about no folding knives longer than 2 inches or something like that. I forget what the
That's
law
gone.
was, but it's gone. So yeah, that stuff. And cops are like, well, I'd never enforce that. But all you need is that one
All you need
that
is the one
really
to do it.
screw up
Yeah.
your life and screw up your day and screw everything up. So
That's true.
anyways,
Okay,
that's a
to
really
wrap
good
this
point.
up, it is good. We're gonna do a part two, everybody. Everybody watching and listening, we're gonna do a part two. So check this YouTube channel or this podcast to find part two. Yes, we're gonna talk about some of our gear and things like that. Before we go, Ben, a few minutes ago, you mentioned an old book, and I found one of these old books in my office, the United States Constitution. And people are throwing this out like it's trash these days, aren't they? I mean, it's sad. It's sad. I've read this old book several times, and I'd suggest you read it.
You'd be surprised what is in there and what is not in there. Your right to
Yeah,
privacy is not
it
mentioned
was
anywhere in the Constitution of the United States or the Bill of Rights. It was from the Supreme Court that said you have the right to privacy. So that word just never mentioned in the Constitution. That's always my favorite. That everybody's like, I have a right to privacy. Show me that in the Constitution. Where does it say that?
yeah. It's
We
probably
can,
not in there.
yeah, no,
It's probably
but
not in there.
yeah. Anyways, so that's way off there. But yeah, if you haven't read the Constitution, definitely. It's like 10 pages, and yes, the first 10 amendments each have like
A little
3 to
more
5
than that,
sentences.
but this
Well,
little pamphlet,
in your
this little
pamphlet,
pamphlet is 46-page pamphlet. So yeah, it's not very long. It's not very long at all. And okay, well, that's a whole different subject, folks. Thanks for watching. I'm Bob Main, and joining me is Ben Brannon. We are the Modern Handgunners. Stick around for part two. Modern Handgunners out.